So I want to discuss today astrological magic, or the magic of astrology. When people use the word magic, they perhaps use it in a specific way that is different from how I would use it. Magic without the K at the end just means wow, great. Magic with a K means a very specific thing. It's got two sides, the yin and the yang of it. The yin is creating an atmosphere, and this is the one side of magic, and the yang side is having clear intention about how to move the energy now that you've created the atmosphere. So that's what I mean when I say magic. It's a very specific thing, very often including ritual performances and symbolic language and so on. Now, of course, astrology is a symbolic language. The symbolism in astrology is unrivaled, I think, in terms of specificity and the conciseness of it and the universality of acceptance of it. Now, we don't all mean the same thing when we put the symbol for Neptune or Pluto. What that means to us would be different according to our own subjective interpretation, but we all know that it does mean Neptune or Pluto. So the shorthand glyph, as it's called, is a sigil. It contains it, that sigil, that glyph, that design, that magical symbol contains all of the mystery associated with the planet, Neptune, Pluto, or whatsoever. So astrology most assuredly can be used for magic because it is based on symbolism. Now, is it a magical practice the way you use it, or is it not? And let's think about what we do when we use astrology. We interpret these symbols as having particular meaning, and that interpretation is a creative act. And very often we tell other people of that interpretation. As an astrologer, we would have a client and we would say to the client, this in your chart means that. Because you have this, you are like that. You are likely to experience that. When the transit's coming along between this date and that date, more or less, you're going to have that kind of experience. Now, we can't be very specific, but we can be quite clear about the type of energy that's around and about at that time. That's what astrology does very well. It describes a certain quality of energy in a very specific time period. When you do that to somebody, when you predict what is going to happen, you are putting a spell in place. Even a very clear-minded person who doesn't believe in astrology would nevertheless be influenced by the prediction. Strangely. The joke is Sagittarius person says, I don't believe in astrology, I'm a Sagittarius. They don't believe in astrology. It's kind of like that. I don't believe in God. And I hope he's not listening when I say that. You know, it's this strange ambiguity. If you actually say, look, I'm an astrologer, I'm looking at your horoscope, this is what will happen to you. You've actually created a spell. The expectation that you planted in the mind of your client is how that spell operates. Because what happens then is they begin to expect the outcome. Even if they expect it not to happen, still the attention is on that thing that we're discussing. And seek and ye shall find. Whether you expect to or not, seek and ye shall find. But expecting to makes it very much more likely that you will. Partly because it attracts the event that you predicted, partly because your perceptual attitude is looking for it and you expect to see it, so you see it whether it's there or not. Much of astrology works on that level. Is there more? If there were more, it would be really clear to statisticians by now. And it isn't. It's not denied, but it's not clear. There was a study done by the Gokulans some 50 years ago that gives really clear evidence that there's some meaning in astrology that can be measured. And I've done research on 25 million bits of data, and the same is true. I can say, yeah, there's clearly a correlation. But to go beyond that and to say this particular person will have that particular event at that particular time, if you can do that, if you can predict the future like that, you're using more than astrology. There's some sort of psychic ability developing there. So what we do when we use astrology is shape the mind of the astrologer and the mind of the client, change their shape. The mind is the operation of the brain in a physical sense, giving rise to what we perceive as thought. And those thoughts form habits. We have habit patterns of thought. And if we tell somebody to expect a certain event, they will train the mind to look for and therefore see that event. And that is magic. Whether that's good magic or black magic, that depends quite a lot on whether you offer them an optimistic outcome. If you say to somebody, you will never be married, not with Pluto in that house, and I've heard that said, then you're practicing black magic. Don't do that. It's dangerous for one, but it's just wrong, it's bad. Don't do that. Don't tell people anything will happen which they don't want to happen. Really. Give them hope. It is hope that creates good outcomes. And if you're using this material, astrology and magic, to create in people the expectation of misfortune, there will be a price to pay, the karmic price, and you'll pay it. If you make somebody else suffer, which you will do by practicing astrological magic. So if you're going to use astrology for magical purposes, which includes predictions, then be a magician about it. Behave impeccably and behave in good conscience as well. Two different things.